Once upon a time, in a quaint royal village nestled among rolling hills and lush forests, there lived a young girl named Princess Ilara. She was the daughter of King Amboko, the leader of the Banku tribe, who became a king after inheriting it from his father, King Ambwara, a generational name in the kingdom. He was considered the best king the village had experienced because of his empathy and concern on the widows and the orphans in the village. He used to hold monthly gatherings where the villagers would donate foodstuff and grains, which then would be distributed to the widows and orphans. King Amboko has also kept this legacy, with the villagers satisfied and appreciative of his good leadership skills and compassion on his people. These qualities seem to run through their family, as his daughter Ilara was also blessed with a kind heart and a radiant smile, which left the visitors to the royal home mesmerized of how behaved and genuine she was regardless of her royal status. However, even gold in the ancient times, people never knew its value and was considered a rock just like the current volcanic rocks till the learned class discovered its value and transformed it to a high-value mineral that is even coveted even by the major economies across the world. This was the case of Ilara, where, despite her royal lineage, good behavior, and a compassionate heart, she was shunned by the villagers, especially by the boys from the upper class, because of her weight. Ilara has over her childhood been a foodie and would take anything available, which was the case since she was raised in a castle. She always kept her mouth and stomach busy, which forced her to add weight to a point she was considered obese. This also made her an introvert, where she preferred staying at home to avoid the constant ridicule and rejection from her age mates. This was considered a great letdown for the royal family, as his father tried to arrange marriage proposals which were constantly met by rejections. The king witnessed his peers become grandfathers and attended all their friends' children's marriage ceremonies with the hope that one day Ilara will find her suitor and also experience the feeling of walking her daughter down the aisle. However, as time went by, Ilara's chances of getting married became slim. The modern society cannot relate to how important marriage was to the king, as the modern world has diluted the importance of marriage, rendering it negligible. However, during the King Amboko's rule, marriage was a key step in children's life, especially girls, who were always propped for the princes and the warriors across the society to ensure their sustenance and security. Such times were full of wars and unrest, and the women relied on their men to keep them secure and ensure that their children are not attacked. Therefore, as men aged, they preferred their daughters to be married to the strongest warriors or the royalties, since at their old age they could not protect them all. Their daughters' suitors took the mantle to protect the family and the old men. As the years passed, Ilara watched as her peers danced and laughed, their eyes sparkling with joy. Therefore, Ilara's situation was becoming dire. As the older she got, the less her probabilities of getting a suitor from the warriors or the royals diminished, leaving her at the mercy of the less masculine village boys. Ilara was always disappointed as she watched her age mates get married and sire children. In some cases, she would meet them outside, playing with their children, but whenever she tried to join them, she was met with sneers and whispers behind her back as they evaded her and rejected her approach. The boys, on the other hand, subjected her to unending mockery, especially referring to her as obese and dirty, considering that she was always drenched in big traditional robes as she tried to hide her body from the public. At the height of Ilara's struggles with acceptance and rejection within the society, a monstrous tragedy struck the village. A relentless drought swept across the land, with the elders suggesting that they have never witnessed such a major drought in the village or even in the neighboring villages. The scorching sun withering crops and drying up streams, leaving the village with empty valleys, which even affected the all-season streams running across the village. The villagers were forced to travel for days in search of water and reserve food. Most of the village's warriors were being sent out of the village to hunt as alternative food sources were exhausted. Food became scarce, and the once vibrant village fell into despair. But amidst the hardship, something unexpected happened. Ilara began to lose weight. This was a result of the strict measures put in place by the king and the village elders as they sought to minimize the amount of food being taken. They had suggested a maximum of 2 average meals in a day, which was in most cases affordable by the royal families and the key warriors in the community. King Amboko was a man of his words and ensured that in his homestead only 2 light meals were consumed in a day. Ilara had tried to complain and manipulate him, but King Amboko was a man of his words, who assured Ilara that she will be treated no different from the rest of the society, or else they will be at risk of exhausting the village's food reserves. This led to her being also limited to 2 meals in a day as the other villagers. She was also tasked to assist with duties around their home as the workers were busy fetching water and hunting for food with the other villagers. During this period, she ate less and was more active. With the shortage of food, Ilara's body began to change. His father's strictness and his efforts to keep her busy in the line of keeping the village stable with adequate food supply started to bear additional fruits in the royal home. Ilara's pounds started melting away, which made her feel lighter as she became more active, revealing the curves beneath her oversized gowns. Her cheeks grew rosier, her eyes brighter, and her beauty began to shine through. This came as a surprise, where in the middle of a calamity, the royal family were experiencing a life-changing event. The king was informed of these news and was full of joy, but at the same time he could not celebrate before sorting the famine calamity facing the village. Ilara also started wearing better gowns. Luckily for her, she had a personal tailor who also served as one of the royal tailors taking care of the royal family. The tailor started grooming her into better gowns, which showcased her curves and the surreal beauty that was hidden by her oversized traditional gowns. Her friends started accepting her into their groups as she was now attractive and not a burden to them anymore. Suddenly, the boys also started noticing the beauty and the new face of Ilara. They started approaching her and showing interest in dating, which previously she could not have a chance with the royal men and warriors. But as Ilara's body transformed, so did her attitude. Her access to more people, and the attention she was getting from the royals and the warriors from the village and the neighboring villages became overwhelming and started growing on her. As days went by, her body and shape improved, and she became the beauty of the village, leaving tongues wagging. However, as she became more popular in a village where she was previously shunned, she started to appreciate her value, and no longer the timid girl seeking approval, she found a newfound confidence within herself. She realized that her worth was not defined by the opinions of others, especially those who had rejected her in the past, which made her develop a sense of self-worth and started shunning any approaches towards her by her age mates and possible suitors. At this period, she started despising the village men, especially those who were not from the royal lineage or warriors. This was ironical, especially her new despise towards the normal village boys, considering they were the ones giving her solace and audience when the entire village shunned her. However, it is said that once a man becomes rich, he forgets his former dinners and starts focusing on fine dining and pretending that he could no longer eat what village peasants take. This was the case, or Ilara, who after her transformation felt that she can no longer associate with the village boys and girls and should only mingle with those from the royal lineage. At the moment, she was the choice of the most warriors and princes, especially since she could access audience with them, and given her single status, she became the talk of the town. Fueled by her newfound confidence and the increasing demand for her hand in marriage from a wide selection of princes from the neighboring villages, Ilara decided to visit his father with a very daring proposal. On the meeting with her father, she requested him to hold a contest where the interested princes are invited and have them participate in a contest. The winner from this contest was to take Ilara as his wife. At the time of this request, the village had started experiencing rainfall, which marked the end of the persistent drought that affected them. This led to the relaxation of most of the regulations that were established during the onset of the drought. King Amboko was surprised by his daughter's request, which prompted him to contact some of his royal friends to seek for advice on what his daughter was suggesting. His friends and fellow elders were supportive of this proposal, especially considering the happiness it will bring to King Amboko once his daughter gets married and have a chance to walk her down the aisle. This prompted the king to send out invitations to nearby royal families, inviting them to participate in a grand competition to win her hand in marriage. At this point, the king did not even invite the village warriors, as her daughter's demand had grown far and wide, such that the princes interested in marrying Ilara were more than those needed for the contest. Preparations started to be made for a months-long contest, with the kings accompanying their princes with the company of the village warriors to cheer their prince and give them extra motivation to emerge victorious. Ilara's home was full of gifts and precious minerals as the kings came bearing gifts and expensive foodstuffs. The part was set to start on the eve of the new month and go all the way towards the end of the month. The visiting royal families started arriving 2 weeks before the contest, which allowed them to visit King Amboko and be accustomed to the village's ways and norms before the competition kicked on. All this long, Ilara was being treated like a queen and abandoned all the duties and was eating together with the visitors, receiving them, and extending warm welcoming gestures to the visiting queens and daughters. As the preparation of the contest progressed, Ilara found herself surrounded by abundance. Tables overflowed with sumptuous feasts. Her once empty stomach was now filled to bursting with the different delicacies being prepared in the castle, which forced her to overeat, especially to make the visitors feel at home. A habit is a disease, that never leaves. Ilara seemed to enjoy food so much and majorly focused on the sweetest delicacies in the royal table, which over time awakened her previous bad eating tendencies. At times, she found herself hiding some food so that she have extra to eat at night. Furthermore, at this time, she was no longer active. Rather, she was in the royal table, being served by the castle's workers. Her eating behavior became evident, which prompted one of the maids to confront her on her new behaviors, warning Ilara that she is overeating and slowly becoming a food addict. This was not received well by Ilara, who questioned the maid's authority to scrutinize her life, and even had her fired and prosecuted of her treason acts. This spread fear amongst the rest of the workers, and no one questioned her again. Towards the end of the contest, everyone had noticed massive changes in Ilara, from her body to her attitude, and how she handled the royal workers and even her peers. Her tailor was also fired as she tried telling her that she is adding a lot of weight and should consider reducing the portions that she was taking. The rumors has even started circulating across the village of the unexpected change in the physical appearance and her social skills when interacting with visitors and the villagers. Her father was informed of these changes. King Amboko visited her and was shocked with the latest developments, but was never concerned since he knew that he is royalty and the marriage process had been initiated and cannot be stopped as the context by them was almost halfway. However, he warned Alara to start taking care of herself. These words from her father were considered an insult, and her temper rose, chasing her father from her room. King Amboko was a wise man, and his wisdom directed him to leave and not confront her. By the time the contest came to an end, Alara had regained the weight she had lost, her figure once again hidden beneath layers of silk and satin. You could not recognize her due to the weight she regained. She had also become more antisocial, making her a villain again. But to her dismay, the winner of the contest, a handsome prince from a neighboring kingdom, recoiled at the sight of her. He turned to his father in disappointment, begging him to cancel the marriage plans, as Alara they were familiar with was no longer the one presented as the final price in the contest. These news spread across the village like wildfires in the dry savannah. King Amboko called for an emergency meeting with the family of the prince, who won the contest, to hear their concerns and proposals. The winner was Prince Nememba from the Akunusi kingdom, who was able to overpower more than 100 royal princes to become victorious. During the meeting, Nememba expressed his disappointment and even accused King Amboko of manipulation. However, King Amboko recalled how Alara humiliated him in front of his subjects and workers as he raised concerns on her eminent body change. To clean his name, he proposed to refund the king of Akunusi kingdom the cost they incurred to attend the party, and assured them he meant well, and luckily the king had seen Alara when they arrived in the village. Heartbroken and humiliated, Alara retreated to the solitude of her chambers. She resumed her former life, which by now was worse than before due to the ridicule coming from the villagers, citing the highly popularized contest that led to nothing. Most of the villagers cited the old saying that pride comes before a fall, while others suggested that you can take a monkey from the forest, but you cannot take the forest out of the monkey. Alara was now seeking audience of the village boys that he had despised at her peak, but they were no longer interested in her. That's how she ended up staying single for the rest of her life.